The only country that has ever dropped nukes in the history of the world is us. Okay? The same country that's always using this idea of the threat of nukes as an excuse to allow them to invade other countries. It's us, just something I noticed. We're the only ones that ever did that, actually. And it's always the Zionists who you could argue created those nukes, right?
Hi, guys, and welcome to the Sahel Revolution. We keep on reporting about what's going on in the Sahel, obviously, because we know Africa is really depending on the success of the three Sahel leaders. We know that. Now, we have two announcements to make, very disturbing kind of, because two of the most powerful, should I say, remaining leaders in Iran has just been killed. One is Gholam Reza Soleimani, commander of Iran military. And then we have Ali Larijani, the secretary of its Supreme National Security Council. Now, Ali Larijani was really, I don't want to say the eye of Iran, because I realize Iran has so many leaders that even if it's almost like a snake having like 30 heads and you kill some heads, they still have a lot left. But after the killing of the supreme leader, he was kind of like the one kind of running, everything behind closed doors and so on. But now we're announcing that they have been killed just yesterday. Now, the other announcement that I think is equally important is the recognition of Joey Kent. And for those who don't know who he is, he's actually one of the most powerful officer in the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, which obviously most of the people say that is just kind of a terrorist group, to be quite honest. It's not what they pretend to be, because they have been responsible for overthrowing so many governments, especially in Africa. So let's not even act like, oh no, it's a very good agency, blah, blah, blah. It's just a name. I think what's important to notice in this recognition is not only the recognition itself, but actually how Trump responded on that, calling this guy weak. This guy went to 11. You know how you are placed, like, let me say, in Afghanistan, and then you go to Iran, and his wife died in action on, I think, one of those as well. So for Trump to come out and say that, that is like, I don't even know, hey? It shows much more about Trump than about Joe Weekend. Anyway, I want to put a video of Candace describing that here. And then I'm going to put a video of my brother from Nigeria that I also listened to. And yeah, then we can come back and discuss that.
So there was some huge breaking news this morning. Joe Kent, that is our director of national intelligence, of counterterrorism, pardon me, just formally resigned from his position, citing opposition to this illegal war. Now, I want you to know, in case you don't follow Joe Kent, maybe you don't follow politics that closely, maybe you're never a Republican. Joe Kent is not just a random person who got the job without proper qualifications. This is not like a Nepo baby, right? This isn't like Jared Kushner going around the world negotiating on Trump's behalf and going, how are you qualified to do this? Joe Kent has actually served this country honorably. And just by way of background, in case you're not familiar with his backstory, while serving in Syria in January of 2019, Joe Kent, his wife, Shannon Kent, his late wife, lost her life to a suicide bomber. They met serving, and they got married, and they had 2 kids. Shannon was the first female combat death in Syria since combat operations began against ISIS. And she was also the first female U.S. service member that was killed by enemy fire in more than 3 years up until that point. And as you can see, she left behind her 2 children with Joe, just 3 years old at the time. The other was 18 months old at the time. Devastating story, right? And I share that with you because I want you to understand that Joe Kent is both professionally and personally qualified to give his opinion on the threat of overseas terror, whether or not it is worth American lives, to send American lives over there. And he addressed his letter, as he should, to the president. That is who he serves. And this is what he wrote. He wrote, President Trump, after much reflection, I have decided to resign from my position as the director of National Counterterrorism Center, effective today. I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. This is an illegal war. The entire world is responding to Trump and saying, this is an illegal war. Why are you doing this? And he is just saying, well, we're going to have it. This is what we do. We bomb Muslim children. And so listening to that and listening to me tell you what Joe Kent's story and background is, literally his wife paid the ultimate sacrifice. You would imagine that President Trump would take this seriously, right? So I'll ask you rhetorically, how do you think President Donald Trump responded to this public resignation? Right? How do you think Trump views someone who served 11 combat tours overseas, whose wife gave the ultimate sacrifice to this nation? Okay, I'll let you take a listen to how he responded.
Your director of national counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security.
And now you have Trump sounding like Bibi, pretending, just uttering the term nuclear holocaust. That's just fear mongering. Okay. It is just, by the way, I do want to point this out. It just always kills me about like the nuclear threat always lingering. The only country that has ever dropped nukes in the history of the world is us. Okay. The same country that's always using this idea of the threat of nukes as an excuse to allow them to invade other countries. It's us. Just something I noticed. We're the only ones that ever did that, actually. And it's always the Zionists who you could argue created those nukes, right? Oppenheimer, you could argue that was a special kind of project. They're the ones that are constantly fear-mongering about it. So take a listen to Bibi Netanyahu, by the way, warning us about how close Iran was to nukes, always on the brink of nukes. Over the course of 3 decades, they've been on the brink of nukes. Take a listen.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year. It could be within a few months.
They have the wherewithal, the stored up, preserved knowledge to make a bomb very quickly if they wanted to do it.
Iran is so dangerous. Weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
They're very close. They're 6 months away from being about 90% of having the enriched uranium for an atom bomb.
Iran is gearing up to produce 25 bombs, atomic bombs a year, 250 bombs in a decade.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is running out.
Iran will be capable of producing alone, without importing anything, nuclear bombs within 3 to 5 years.
Totally true. It's always totally true. Just a couple of weeks, they're going to have nuclear bombs. They just lie because they need the bodies. They need the people like Joe Kent. And then to see him be so disrespected, I mean, it's just what they do. And you know what they're going to do now. It's what they're already doing. They're going to smear and they're going to attack and they're going to threaten Joe Kent. Here are some of the immediate responses that are already floating online, okay? You have Lindsey Graham, who is so blackmailed it hurts. He wrote, the resignation of Joe Kent as the director of National Counterterrorism Center could not have come at a better time. What? Like, in his statement explaining why he's resigning in protest, Mr. Kent is echoing the Democratic talking points. Neo-Nazi, Jew-hating, Israel basher quits administration. Good riddance to bad garbage. Yep. Everyone who doesn't think that we should be sending our sons and daughters to die for Israel is a Nazi. Even when I tell you, they are going to criminalize disagreeing with Israel. It's very obvious that's where we're floating towards. And I want to say this because they are so stupid. Like, they just never see what's so obvious. The treatment of Joe Kent is going to be consequential. It's a terrible, terrible mistake to attack him in this way. Somebody who is deeply respected by the armed forces because he served, he understands, he's been over there, he has sacrificed. Okay. So the message that they are sending right now, lock up everybody who disagrees with us, lock up Candace Owens, lock up Tucker Carlson. Well, just so you know, that's going to be heard. I hope it's heard. I hope it is heard from the troops overseas, and they are recognizing they do not care about you. They do not care about you. They just want bodies. I deeply feel that. And now we're obviously at a place where lines are being drawn in the sand. People are seeing this for what it is. It is a spiritual war. We are fighting literal demons. Like I said to you, I believe that. And I've made it very clear. I'm happy to fight with all of these people all day, every day.
While most of the world was sleeping, Iran unleashed a wave of retaliatory strikes against Israel that hit the heart of the country. Missiles rained down on the greater metropolitan area around the commercial capital. They struck near the country's main international airport. They hit residential districts and transport infrastructure across central Israel. Emergency responders confirmed at least 2 people killed in the latest barrage, with reports of multiple impact sites across the city and surrounding neighborhoods. And according to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, this was not a random retaliatory strike. This was indeed targeted. This was personal. This was also a retaliation for the killing of the most powerful surviving figure in Iran's entire political and security establishment. Because hours before those missiles were flying into Israel, Iran's Supreme National Security Council did something it had been avoiding for nearly 24 hours. They confirmed what Israel had been claiming since the previous night. It confirmed that Ali Larijani, the secretary of the council, and widely regarded as the de facto leader of Iran since the killing of the former supreme leader on the very first day of this war, was dead. Yeah, they confirmed Israel actually killed this guy. He was killed in an Israeli airstrike near Tehran alongside his own son, alongside his office chief, and alongside several of his personal guards. And it did not stop there. Iran also confirmed the killing of the commander of its internal paramilitary force, the militia that is responsible for suppressing domestic protests and maintaining regime control on the streets of every major Iranian city. Both men gone in one night. On the same day that the man effectively running Iran's war effort was confirmed dead, the director of America's National Counterterrorism Center, the agency that is responsible for tracking every known and suspected threat actor on the planet, announced his resignation from the administration of Donald Trump. And he did not do it quietly. He posted his resignation letter publicly on social media for the entire world to read. Let me tell you what he actually said, because every word matters. He said, and I am paraphrasing closely, that he could not in good faith, in good conscience, support the ongoing war against Iran. He said Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. And then he said a line that should be studied in every foreign policy classroom for the next decade. He said it was clear that this war was started due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby.
So yeah, that's a kind of, I don't even understand. That's why I think the divided states should be the one called a regime, because like when they refer to a regime, they actually, it's not having a very good meaning. They are trying to say that this is a regime, is always referring to an organization or a government that oppress people. So I think in that case, the divided states should actually be the one called a regime, because they are the one that is very oppressive. Imagine talking about your own people. Before the resignation, he was probably a good person. Why can people just take it that people, and most people actually suspect that the reason the guy resigned is because they are probably planning a false flag attack. And I think we talk about false flag attack. False flag attack is about when one country attacks its own citizens and unalive them, to actually blame it on the other country to be able to gain kind of the support of its citizens to go into war, something like, obviously we know they are already in war right now, but most of the soldiers doesn't want to participate in this war. And obviously the president of the divided state is talking about boots on the ground, which means that they need soldiers on the ground, because right now that this war has been fought with missiles and bombs and all that, not necessarily soldiers fighting against each other. But I think the divided state is planning on doing that. And because of that, they probably need to do something to blame it on Iran, just like they did the other time when some Mossad agents has been caught, like bombing, I think, was it the Saudis oil, and acting like it's Iran. So yeah, from me, Jehovah. Bye, guys.
Kelly